Hello everyone. I hope everyone is safe and doing well. So last week we discussed about the first chapter in a legal due diligence report, which is a corporate chapter. So now after the corporate chapter, the second chapter which we'll be discussing would be the material contracts chapter. So material contracts chapter in a legal due diligence report consists of a summary or details of all the major contracts executed by a company in course of its business. So before we discuss about the contents of this chapter, it is very important to here to specify that if, for a matter of fact, the company is executing multiple contracts, like for example the company has some vendor agreements, some customer contracts, and some supplier agreements, then at the same time it has some other third party agreements, some different category of agreements, and there are like 10 such agreements each. So it's always good to specify clearly in the beginning of the chapter itself that the company has executed XYZ categories of contracts for the purposes of its business, and give in brief some details about the purpose for which such a contract has been executed. So whoever is reading the material contracts chapter will at least give. So basically the purpose of doing DD is obviously is to identify the legal viability of executing that transaction or entering into that transaction, but at the same time I'm checking the well-being of the company, but at the same time whoever is reading the report should get a fair bit of idea about the operations of the company. So for that purpose, like for example, if the company has 3-4 or maybe more than that different kinds or categories of contracts, it's always good to sort of bucket them, categorize them, and mention in the chapter that look, the company has executed these different categories of contracts. So now, as we had discussed, that in a full-fledged DD report all type of documents are profiled, and in a red flag report only the issues are highlighted. So similarly, if for a matter of fact you are working on a red flag report and you are highlighting just the key issues, then in that case you won't be required to profile each contract. Basically you won't have to specify in detail that the contract was executed, like obviously irrespective of whether it's a full flag report or it's a issues based report, you would even then specify at least the date of the contract and the name of the parties. But you wouldn't, if it's a red flag report, you wouldn't specify each term or each key term of that contract. You only if any specific clause which you come across while diligencing that specific agreement, if you feel that that clause is important for the transaction, or if you feel that that specific clause entails a liability or which is very onerous for the company, or basically the target company and your client who's the investor, for example, must have a look at it, or from the purposes of the transaction, let's say the transaction entails a change in control. Let's say the investor is or the acquirer is acquiring 60% stake in the company, and for a matter of fact there is while diligencing the documents you come across any specific contract which says that in case of a change in control of the company, in your case the target company, you need to take a prior written approval from the counterparty to that agreement. Then obviously your transaction does entail a change in control, because the definition of control would in your specific agreement mean to say that a change in control would mean acquisition of control of the company, or acquisition of more than 50% stake in the company. So from that matter your transaction may entail a change in control, and obviously just to avoid any type of default on the part of the company with respect to that particular agreement, the company would be an obligation to inform or take consent prior to approval, whatever is mentioned in the concerned contract, for the purposes of that contract. So for the purposes of preparation of a legal due diligence report, we had discussed the concept of look back period. Now for the material contracts chapter, this concept of look back period doesn't apply. I'll explain this by giving a very simple example. Suppose take an example that you are reviewing the documents of the target company as of today, 2020, and the look back period for the due diligence is 3 years. So consider a situation wherein you are reviewing a corporate filing, a filing made by the company with the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Registrar of Companies in 2015. And remember, look back period is 3 years, and you are diligencing the documents in 2020. So ideally, you would not review such a filing because it falls beyond the look back period. But now comparing it with the situation wherein you have been provided with a material contract which was executed in 2015, obviously again beyond your look back period, but at the same time, if the term of the agreement was, let's say, 10 years, and as on date, obviously since the term was 10 years, it is valid and subsisting, then you will review such an agreement, and you cannot say that, look, this agreement was executed during a period which is beyond my look back period. You will still review the agreement, and even if you come across a material agreement which is beyond your look back period and which has expired, as a matter of practice, it is good to seek a requisition from the company and ask them if and whether that specific agreement has been renewed. So the company has executed different categories of contracts, and for a matter of fact, for one category there are 10 agreements and all of them are in template form. And let's say you're preparing a full-fledged report wherein you're profiling each agreement. So if the agreements are in template form, then ideally you shouldn't profile all those agreements because they are the same. Only the variants, basically, for example, if there are 10 agreements which are in template form which are exactly the same, obviously some terms may vary, like for example the consideration clause or maybe the assignment clause based on the negotiation between the parties, it may vary. So as a matter of practice, you shouldn't profile each agreement. You should profile one of such template agreements and specify that the other agreements are in template form, and the variances or the variations are highlighted below. Basically, if there is any difference in those agreements, obviously the consideration amount would vary, or if there is any major point which is not consistent amongst those templates, then that point you should highlight, as opposed to just profiling all such templates. Now coming to the key clauses to look out for in any material agreement. Obviously it will depend upon the kind of contract you're reviewing, but for a matter of fact, it should always depend upon the nature of the transaction. You should, like, if your transaction entails a change in control, and for a matter of fact, it is mentioned in the agreement that a change in control may require prior approval, or if it says that in case of a change in control, a written intimation has to be given to the concerned third party to that contract. So if it's mentioned that change in control for the purpose of change in control, a prior written consent should be required or should be taken, then as the CP you'll mention in the recommendation that as a condition precedent to the proposed transaction, this consent under so and so contract should be taken because it stipulates, or if it is mentioned that in case of a change in control, intimation has to be given, then you should mention that as a condition subsequent, this intimation should be given. So, and this is about the change in control. Now obviously you will always look out for agreements which are terminated. Like for example, if the term has expired, then what you would do is that you would seek a requisition from the company, asking the company whether so and so agreement has been renewed, and if it has not been renewed, then you will highlight it in the due diligence report. So similarly, if there are any other clauses which are very important for your transaction, like for example, for a matter of fact, your transaction entails a change in directors because the acquirer would be acquiring 60% stake in the company. So there could be a situation wherein some director may resign, and then the nominee director of the investor or the acquirer will come into picture. And if you, let's say, your material agreement says that in case of any change in directors, you need to inform me or take my prior consent, then accordingly your recommendation for the purposes of the material contracts chapter in the legal due diligence report will change. Similarly, there could be other clauses which would be material or which could be onerous on the target company which you are reviewing. So for a matter of fact, such clauses should be highlighted which are pertinent to the transaction or which are very onerous for the target company. So today we discussed about the material contracts chapter in a legal due diligence report. in the coming episode, we'll be discussing about the other chapters in a legal due diligence report. Thank you.